Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Youthman, and this is my friend Brad from Home Theater Gamer. Recently, I had B&H Photo send me 4 SVS 3000 micro subwoofers. Now, to implement 4 subwoofers into your setup, really, I needed some help on that. I'm familiar with REW and miniDSP. I have one in my setup, but I realized that I'm not the best at setting that up and calibrating it. So I asked Brad if he'd come over and give me a hand with that. And so in this video, it's not going to be a step-by-step tutorial of how you set up the miniDSP and use a UMIC 1 and calibrate them, but really I want to show you the benefits of using a miniDSP with a UMIC 1. Now make sure you stay tuned to the very end of this video because we're going to be doing a giveaway on the miniDSP 2x4HD along with their brand new UMIC 2 microphone.
What'd you just say?
The UMIC 2?
Okay.
So I want to give a big thanks to miniDSP for sponsoring this giveaway. Now before we dive into the measurements that we took with REW using my UMIC 1 microphone and the miniDSP 2x4HD, in my room we set up 4 subwoofers. These are the SVS 3000 micros. They were recently sent for me to review from B&H Photo. So I've got about 30 days with these. So I thought it'd be kind of a fun video to see, you know, what would it look like before and after calibrating with some software like the miniDSP 2x4HD and REW. So I have each one of these subwoofers placed in the corners of my room. So I have one in the front left, front right, rear left, and rear right.
All right, so before we jump into REW, I just want to add real quick that I want to thank Michael for having me come over and pay me the $500 that he didn't know about until just now. So I really appreciate that.
All right, guys, so let's go ahead and dive into the computer and take a look at some measurements that we took with REW. All right, so here we are inside of REW. REW is a free software that you can download and it allows you to connect to, say for instance, like a UMIC 1.
Well, wait, what?
A UMIC 1.
What is that?
You know, the calibration microphone.
Oh, you mean the UMIC 1?
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. All right, a UMIC 1. I call it a UMIC 1. That does sound weird now that I think about it.
A little bit.
We'll go with UMIC 1. So you connect that with the UMIC 1 and we're able to run some measurements. Now, once again, this video isn't going to be a step-by-step tutorial. Brad's got an incredible series over on his channel that can walk you step-by-step through it on how to take measurements and how to do pretty much everything we did in this video. So if we come down to the bottom, we're going to go ahead and turn on this first measurement. Now this is what we call the before baseline measurement. So this is before adding any time alignment and also before adding any EQ. And so just taking a quick look at this, the biggest thing that I can see here is we've got this massive peak here. That's not good. That's going to cause a boominess in these frequencies. If we look here, this is 60 hertz up to about somewhere around 90 hertz. You just got this massive bump here. Ideally, what we want is a smooth line, relatively smooth, or maybe even tapered down all across the frequency spectrum here. And so we've also got this massive null here. So this is a lack of bass. So at these frequencies, if I click right here, so this is 97 hertz. So at 97 hertz, we have a ton less output. So we're down to 62 decibels versus we want it to be somewhere up here, which is like 92 decibels. That's 30 dB less of volume in those frequencies. So ideally, this really isn't that great. So one of the things I want to share with you in this video is just because you add multiple subwoofers doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily get the best frequency response. And so we're going to go through each one of these measurements. I'm going to let Brad kind of help me out as far as what he did because Brad is way more knowledgeable with miniDSP and REW than I am. And so Brad, let's go ahead and walk through each one of these. So down here on the bottom, tell us what we've got here.
All right, so this is the front sub. This is the front left and front right subwoofers together. And this is completely time aligned. Now I say that, but we actually didn't need to add any delay to either sub because when we did, it would just make it worse.
Okay.
And we verified this both using the alignment tool within REW, as well as taking a measurement with those delays added in. And yeah, they were both worse. So I wanted to point that out because a lot of people think that you need to absolutely add delay to a sub when you don't need to. Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You want to verify it first, make sure that that is getting you a better response, and then move on. But here we didn't need to do that. So these are just the front 2 subs.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this first one here because that was with 4 subs. So this is kind of where we started. So we measured both front subwoofers, then we time aligned them, and then we added some EQ if necessary. Have we done the EQ at that point?
No, we don't do the EQ with this method until the very end.
Okay. So we're just focusing on time aligning them. And really kind of briefly, what is time alignment?
It's basically a phase adjustment. So technically you might not need a miniDSP to do maybe just 2 subs, but you will if you have multiples. It's just going to be a lot easier, and it actually is a lot easier within the miniDSP because it allows you more fine-tuned granular control down to the 1/10 of a millisecond, which try to get that off of pretty much any sub. So basically what we're doing here is we're essentially making the subs play nice together.
Okay.
Making sure that they're not canceling each other out, that the frequencies, like you see this big dip here, that's just because that's in this room.
Gotcha.
Like, so here, no matter what delays we added, it didn't really benefit the overall frequency response. It may have boosted a certain area, but in doing that, it made other areas worse. So just, again, reiterating the fact that you don't need to add any type of delay if you're actually getting worse performance.
Absolutely, and that makes sense. And so the next measurement we took was we turned on the 3rd sub, and now we take a measurement of that, and we just call it baseline. So again, that's with the front 2 subs time aligned, but now we're adding the 3rd sub without any time alignment.
Correct.
So let's see what we got there. So already, even without any time alignment, we see we're getting a little bit better response here, so that's fantastic. We got rid of a lot of this nastiness down here. Over here, so this is below what the subwoofer is capable of, so I'm not really as concerned with this right here. And let's see, so a little bit of a lower dip here. So that's with the baseline, correct?
Correct, yeah, that's no additional delay to the 3rd sub.
Okay, so then we'll go ahead and take a look at the next measurement, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the front 2 subs. So now we're looking at just 3 subs, comparing that with 3 subs with time alignment. Let's go ahead and walk us through that.
Well, I mean, basically, I don't remember the exact delay that we added to it, but it kind of makes sense to add a delay to the sub or the subs behind us because they're closer than the ones in the front. So those are not going to be playing the same notes. They're not going to be reaching us at the same time. There's a whole sound wave thing going on in the room. But doing this will actually basically put them in sync. And if you notice, looking at the purple line, which is the time-aligned one, that we gained output down around the 25 hertz region, which is around where these subs are capable of. That's where they start, 23 hertz-ish. And we gained output pretty much across the board. We lost a little bit kind of up near 80 to 90, but since we're going to be EQing these, we're not really concerned too much with that minor loss of output. We didn't lose a lot. Now, if it was, you know, we lost 10 decibels or something, that's something that I would definitely avoid.
Gotcha.
But since we're going to be EQing, I knew that this would be completely fine. And then we even smoothed out that kind of dip a little bit, not a whole lot.
Like right here?
Right. It's not as severe as the blue line there, which was the one without time alignment.
Right. So that was just a massive dip, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. So perfect. So then we'll go ahead and turn off the 3. And so now we're going to go to 4 subs. So we'll come down here, turn on 4 subs, no time alignment. And actually, I'll just compare it with the 3. So you can see by adding a 4th sub, just natively without any time alignment, you can see we actually, it was hurting our performance. Right. And again, what I want to reiterate in this video is that just by adding subwoofers in your room doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better response. And I can't stress enough, really, if you don't have something like a UMic 1 and REW, you're really just guessing when you just place subwoofers where you think they should be or where they look best in your room. and just hope they sound good. Sometimes you can get lucky, but as you can see in this particular case, in my theater room, just by adding a fourth subwoofer isn't necessarily a good thing before we use something like the miniDSP to time align them. All right, so now let's take a look at what happens when we do time align them. So I'm going to turn off the 3 subs. So this is with 4 subs with no time alignment. And now let's go ahead and turn on. So this is after time alignment. So you can see right here, we got rid of this really nasty null right here. So that smoothed that out, which is good. Coming over to about, what's that, around 25 hertz, all the way up to maybe say 45 hertz. We got a lot more output here. We got rid of this nasty dip right here. And you can see we lost a little bit output right here, but that's not a big deal. And then the rest of this is pretty same. And so this right here to me was probably the biggest benefit of time aligning that fourth subwoofer to the other 3 subwoofers.
Absolutely.
Now the final measurement we took was after applying a house curve. And let's try to make it as simple as we can, Brad. What really is a house curve? What's kind of the desire behind that? Because we're going to see when I turn this on, we actually lost output. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And why is this curve kind of starting high over here and it kind of slopes down to the right here? Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So to answer your question pertaining to losing output, we're actually not losing output. What I tend to do when I know I'm going to apply a house curve or any type of EQ is I always kind of overshoot the bass a little bit. So instead of level matching to 75, I might add 2 or 3 dB.
Okay.
So what that does is that gives me the headroom to allow me to kind of get up to those higher peaks and then bring them back down with the EQ. Remember,
Gotcha.
with EQ, it's always better to cut
Correct.
and not boost. So the thing that I did here was I basically level match every sub to 77, 78 dB,
Okay.
knowing that we'd apply that house curve because I wanted to hit that 85 decibel target on the lower end. Now, to answer your other question about why is this desirable to kind of have it start here on the lower end and then slope down, and that basically applies to how we hear bass and how it reacts to our room and our ears, and especially if you don't listen to stuff at reference level. So reference level is super loud, right? And most of us don't live in a space where we can listen to stuff at, 0 dB or 75, like you calibrate to that.
Right.
So with this, if you listen normally at like -10, -15 dB, you're going to get that little extra kind of oomph in your bass, but it's not going to be overbearing.
Sure.
And that's because we're sloping down towards 75. So it starts at 85 dB at the lowest, between 20 and 30.
So that's here. So we've got 80 dB, and we can see or 85 dB here. So if I click, you can see it's 86.4. So we're pretty close to that, right at about 85. And you want it to slope down to what?
75. So basically it's a 10 decibel decrease. And I did want to mention that we didn't really spend a ton of time tweaking this to make it the best that it possibly can be.
Because we could spend hours and hours getting this dialed in. But to me, and I guess one thing that I've always heard is that our ears are more sensitive to higher frequencies than they are lower frequencies, which is why we have kind of more bass than we do treble over here. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so now let's just kind of look back and compare what we started with. So I'm going to turn these off, and I'm going to turn off the house curve. So here's where we started with the before baseline. This is 4 subwoofers, no time alignment, no EQ, no nothing. And then here's what we ended up with after. And so here, what we can see is we've got a much smoother response. This is kind of a gradual slope down. That's that house curve. But we've eliminated this massive peak here. And again, you might think, man, Michael, that's crazy. Why would you want to get rid of that? Because these frequencies, which is about, say, 70 hertz up to maybe 80, 85 hertz, that's going to be really, really boomy. So those frequencies are going to be really loud, but then somewhere down here, like at 50 hertz or down at, say, 25 hertz, it's going to be a lot softer. So it's not going to be a balanced sound across the frequency spectrum.
So I do want to mention real quick that If you look to the right side, you'll notice around 105 dB that there's no EQ applied after that, and that's because we chose not to in REW's EQ algorithm thing. And the reason for that is we end up crossing the speakers over at 80, 60, 100, wherever you cross them over at. So it's not really going to affect it too much.
Now, before I share with you the giveaway details, definitely, Brad, thank you so much for coming by and helping me out set up and calibrate these subwoofers. I've learned a lot in this process. This was the first time that I've ever tried to set up 4 subwoofers in my room, especially in different locations. And so hopefully, as you can see in this video through the measurements that we took, it's not just ideal just to place subwoofers around your room, hoping you get the best frequency response. There's a lot more to it. But the great thing, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Brad has an incredible 5-part series using the miniDSP, using REW, and he'll walk you step by step through that process so that you can do this in your own home with these tools. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I partnered with miniDSP, and they're willing to give away a UMIC 2, or as Brad likes to call it, a UMic 2, as well as a miniDSP 2x4HD. Now, this is about a $420 value, and so if you've been looking at this and kind of been hesitating on purchasing, especially because of the cost, definitely this is a great way for a chance to possibly win one for yourself. To enter the giveaway, head over to youthmanreviews.com/miniDSP. All of the details will be there. This giveaway will run for about 3 weeks, so make sure you get entered, and there's also daily entries. Now be sure to subscribe to Brad's channel as well as check out his series on the miniDSP. I'll have a couple videos right here. Well, as always, you guys be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next video.